The gospel today is an invitation to follow Jesus. And sometimes when we read these words, they are kind of harsh because we could misinterpret them again like the ones Jesus spoke on last Sunday's gospel. We find Jesus saying, whoever doesn't hate his brother or mother cannot be my follower. Whoever does not hate and renounce to everything he has cannot be my disciples. And this can be, and it is, and it goes against some other sayings of Jesus. For instance, in the same Gospel of Luke, Jesus says, "But to you who hear I say, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you." So how do we understand these words? Well, maybe the only ones who I heard could really understand these words are teenagers, they say, because some of them would say, well, I don't stand my mom, I cannot get along with my brother, I hate my life. But I don't know if that's true. The gospel talks about, and Jesus exaggerates to make his point. He's not inviting us to harbor any ill will to our wife or to children or to yourself. He's using this hyperbole so to make his point. But the point is, you should love me above everything else. Everything else. If you are to be my disciple. But sometimes we jump too easily into conclusions. Well, if you want to be the disciple, you should carry the cross and follow Jesus, which is okay. But notice that we usually avoid or omit and just don't see the first point of that phrase. Jesus says, if anyone wants to be my disciple, if anyone comes to me with that desire of being my disciple, a disciple in Greek means student, literally, in Greek. And so Jesus is saying, if someone wants to learn from me, these are their requirements. These are their requirements. Have you count the cost? Do you really think you can make it? And it's an invitation to a consideration about the requirements to be a good disciple. But what right has he to demand this type of love? How can he claim this exclusive and absolute and supreme love? Well, the only answer to that is because he is God. That's the first commandment, to love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. The great evangelist Billy Graham said once, salvation is free, but discipleship costs everything we have. That is so true. The Lord loves us. He has given his life on the cross for us. But the cost of discipleship is great. And we have to count the cost. Now, among the crowds, it says that there were a lot of people going with Jesus. So the gospel today is open saying, great crowds were traveling with Jesus. And he turned and addressed them. Maybe, we don't know, the evangelist doesn't say, maybe there were a lot of different type of people following Jesus in this crowd. There sure was some disciples, as we understand it. But maybe some people were just casual followers. Maybe some of them was there just out of curiosity. Others may have been even critics of Jesus. Let's see what he does. Let's see what he says. Or sort of spies of the Pharisees. We don't know exactly. But Jesus doesn't fool himself, and he doesn't fool his disciples, his followers. He turns around and he says, you gotta make this choice. So the question today is, do you want to be a disciple? We cannot give it for granted. We cannot give it for granted. We cannot say, well, I was born Christian. I was born Catholic. I've come to Mass so many years. We have to make an intentional choosing for Christ. Do you want to follow Jesus? And the beginning of the year is such a great and appropriate moment to recommit to the Lord. It's not a question that Jesus posed to us to push us away, but to make us stout-hearted followers and disciples. It's rather an invitation to choose again for him with renewed strength. Pope Francis, very shortly after being elected as Pope in the year 2003, he wrote the following: I invite all Christians, and this is one of his first invitations, everywhere at this very moment, to a renewed personal encounter with Jesus Christ, or at least an openness to letting him encounter them. I ask all of you to do this unfailingly each day. No one should think that this invitation is not meant for him or her, since no one is excluded from the joy brought by the Lord. The Lord does not disappoint those who take this risk. Whenever we take a step toward Jesus, we come to realize that he's already there waiting for us with open arms. So this is a good moment today, as right after Mass, we're going to have our parish picnic, to recommit ourselves as a community. We want to be followers of Jesus. We want to love Jesus above all other things in this life. Above myself, above my relatives, above my friends. And he can only demand this of all of us because he is God. And he has given himself totally to us first. So we can consider what the Lord has done for us throughout this past year. And looking back, this past year, I've almost been here a year. So many good things the Lord has done in our community. During the Alpha course, the newcomers, the people at college with their Alpha, their retreats, their pilgrimage to Rome and then to the Medjugorje, the Theological Academy, the courses that we've had, all the small groups that have begun in our parish, the people who have joined the church, many good things the Lord has done for us. Many people have experienced a lot of joy in serving the Lord throughout this year in Stone Soup at St. Vincent de Paul. We have worshipped and encountered the Lord so many times each Sunday. I recall the wonderful Easter Vigil that we have, and I could go on and on and on and on. But remembering everything the Lord does for you helps us to say, what have to give back to the Lord, and inspires us to be more generous towards God this year.